last time on Gamedev. Well, last time was a bunch of fix-up and stuff and other code things. And I actually did not work at all on things today. Like I said, I probably would yesterday, because I got busy working on a new project and also other things. And so today, though, as promised, pixel art stuff and nothing else, no actual code. So let's see here. I think the first thing to do is to make sort of a template that I can use later for new tile sheets and things like that. So let me see. We need this. And then, right. Yeah. Not sure how to lay these out actually. Guess that could have worked. Yeah, so right now what I'm just doing is laying out all the possible ground tiles. And so when you have terrain sort of like you know, like this, then you have all sorts of different, and like the terrain has a sort of a top, then there's all sorts of different tiles at different intersections. So if the ground comes together like that, or like this, or like this, or if it's like this, you know, all of these need different kinds of tiles, and I'm just marking out the ones that are needed in a sort of a template way, so I can always lay them out in exactly the same way. And that should make things a bit easier. Now, the reason I'm not using a top row is because I want to reserve those for invisible markers. And I'll get to that later. Okay, so now we need variants for all the different orientations. God damn it. Sure, I'm still missing something. Let's see. Definitely missing even more if I'm adding slopes at some point, but I'm still not decided whether I want slopes at all. Also, this is the wrong way around. We have things like this, I guess. Okay, did I forget anything else? I don't think so. Probably be better to... Okay, I think that should be everything. Okay. So I'm not sure whether I want to do... It's kind of difficult to decide because only having one variant of each tile is really bad for repetition. It's not even counting, you know, fill-ins, interior fill-ins and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what to do about that, whether I want to have a mandated number of repetitions or let it be freeform after that. Also, let me make a marker down here. That's kind of interactables did I have? I forget. Let me look that up real quick. Did I have platforms, ground, spikes, and slopes, and that's it. Okay. And then everything else is just generic entities. So great. Classic problem of not being able to divide up. Power of 2. Or rather, there's no middle. And then I guess slopes. We'll just add them for now. I'm not yet sure whether we'll need them. Where is this? Yeah, okay. Two by two. Where's the, there it is. What? What is happening? Huh? Oh, for some reason that's... Okay, why was that transparent, please? Weird. Alrighty. Actually, no, I don't need that. I don't think I need directional variance at all. I'm being a dingus. I'll just make multiple altered versions. I guess. Okay. Don't need anything else. That is a big question. Could probably do with a copy of this in the very least. But there's some variants that can be done with these tiles since they're the most common. Or in the very least I would expect them to be. Wish it. Does Asprite not have a fucking rotation angle lock? Fuck you. Just give me an angle snap, please. Anything else? Well, the slopes will be the thing now, I guess. Which give me all sorts of headaches. Because you need to handle transitions from slopes to every other kind of angle. But I guess I can temporarily mark this in as well while I'm making this template. Arrange this slightly differently. Fits a bit better. Never mind. I'm very indecisive. So it should look like that, sort of. Not sure. I might need multiple variants of the slope to straight angle edge piece, depending on the slope angle. I'll have to actually make a set and see how it looks. I'm probably gonna have to do that. As in, have to add different center pieces, edge pieces. I'm just hoping that I don't...
Looks pretty good.
Well, I mean, it doesn't look like anything, it's just a template. But thank you. I'll make an actual tile set in a moment once I'm done with this.
It's a good line.
Hell, son. The rest of the space, I mean, I can add a lot more tiles than this, but the rest of the space should probably just be free for all kinds of stuff. I don't know. Okay, let's actually make a tile set out of this. Properties. Okay, and that should be the finished template. Save as. What do we want to do? Something that should fit the game so I can use it. But I'm not sure if I want to start with a desert or an ice area or a town area or what. Why am I so bad at deciding things? I wouldn't most like to do the town, but the problem is the town needs a bunch of custom art. I know, or like one of the towns, I know that the towns are gonna need tons of special purpose artwork for the specific kinds of buildings and things in there. And I don't want to get into that quite yet before I have a better idea of what the world in general is supposed to look like and what kind of feel I want. And yeah. Let's do ice. Why not? Ice. Oops. Or fine. Nice. There it is. Okay. Time to figure out how you do ice in pixels. Let's look at some references. Hurrah. Ice pixel art. Google Images is terrible for pixel art. Most of the results are complete garbage. But I'm gonna trawl through it anyway and see what's up. Okay. 8x8 is a bit too minimalistic. Okay. This looks okay, but it's not really what I need. That's not. Is that pixel art? Great job loading the image. Ice cream is definitely what I meant to Google. Definitely. Yes. That is pretty good. But it's not ice. You fucking idiots. Oh yeah, I noticed, yeah. I know that artist. I forget his name, but he's, yeah. The hell is this? Okay. Looks like bootleg Minecraft. Yeah, it's just a load of baloney. This looks alright. I like this one. Maybe nice pixel tile set. See what I find for this. Not much more that's promising in any sense. That's super tux, isn't it? This is pretty good. But it's not pixel art. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm not finding much. I'm also having trouble thinking of any games that do pixel art ice kinds of things in a good way. I think Celeste has a couple of icy things, maybe. Let's have a look. Celeste. Tilesheet. Apparently they have that. Okay. Yeah, so stuff like this, right? It's alright, but not quite what I want. so keep this open for reference. Fucking Pinterest, get out of here, you piece of shit. Not sure if it actually did that correctly, but it seems so. At least no Pinterest posts so far. Good. Get fucked, Pinterest. Right, this is more what I was thinking of when I thought about the Celeste area, though it's not really icy. It's more of a gloss kind of thing. Alright, well anyways, desert things that I looked up earlier. Well, let's see where I can get just by my lonesome. I'm pretty bad at colors and anything like that, so I have adjusted my hopes downwards. And every now and again I keep thinking back to Rami Ishmael's talk about good and bad advice. It's a really, really good talk. If you haven't seen that one yet, you definitely should go check it out. So that looks kind of frosty. Stay frosty. Guess.
What is it about?
It's about good and bad advice. It's about, well, it's a group talk from a bunch of people that talk about how some of the advice they've given in the past ended up being bad advice. And his talk in particular is very powerful. It touches on some very interesting points. And I think it's well listening to for everybody. I'll link it in chat real quick. Let's see if I can find it. I think it's in my faves somewhere. Where is it? I guess it's not in my faves. Why not? Someone likes. I hate that there's two separate things for that. I never know whether I should like a thing or favorite it. Where is it? It's gotta be here somewhere. Come on. See. Yeah, there it is. Found it. Please don't autoplay. Shut the fuck up, YouTube. Where's the link to his talk? Timestamp. I'll just quickly figure it out myself. Hold on. Share. Actually, we could just listen to it on stream. Why don't we do that? Let's do that. No copyright and all that, but I don't really care. I'm going to be drawing on the side. Hold on. Window capture. Is this the right one? Yes, it is. Okay. Let's turn that down like this. I'll still link it in chat anyway. Real quick. Here it is. If you Google for everything I said was wrong GDC, it should also show up. Let's just keep it in the bottom there. That should be good.
Hi, my name is Rami Ismail. I'm one half of Dutch independent studio of Vlaambeer. I'm also the least experienced person here on this panel. I didn't know you could have an imposter syndrome for a talk about being bad at something. So it's funny, advice has always been a funny thing in my life. I was raised Muslim, and Muslims, when they give advice to each other, they usually start with a phrase and end with a phrase that is Allahu A'lam, which means only God knows. But it's funny because that phrase is meant to tell people that you shouldn't take anything at face value. You should think about what somebody tells you, like even a wise person, you should think about it. The irony is that that phrase became a signifier for somebody being a wise person. So even starting and ending your advice with that now just means like, oh, you should probably just listen to this person, because clearly they know what they're talking about. So here's what I've come to realize. All advice is bad. So, okay, if I were to tell you the story of how Vlambeer came to be, if I were to give you the advice of how Vlambeer came to be, it would be go to a university that you don't like, meet a person that you don't like, start a company together, and make Flash games. That's how we did it. Done. Congratulations.
Vlambeer did
success.
nuclear throne, Luftrausers, and
Now
things
here's
like
the
that.
problem. We work in a really strange industry. There are 4 factors to this industry that are really odd. First, we're a technological industry, and technology changes rapidly. Second, we're a creative industry, and that's deeply personal and subjective. We're an industry of entrepreneurship, which might even change faster than technology. And then we make art. Let's not even get into that one. Then on top of that, on top of those really shoddy foundations, we build our own culture. We build video games culture. We built game development culture. And guess what? That changes even faster than all the other things I just mentioned. And then we like to say that we're a global industry, but we're not really. We're global in that way where everybody that does what we do is considered part of the games industry, and everybody who doesn't is kind of, we don't talk about those people. And then every advice we give, by the time we mention to form a coherent thought in our head, is outdated. So whenever you get on a stage or start writing a blog, let me tell you up front, your advice is bad. Okay? And for a moment, consider the irony of me standing here giving you advice about how advice is bad. So I have a few stories I want to tell you. The first one is about perspective and hindsight. So I just told you Vlambeer's story. And Vlambeer's story makes a lot of sense to me, and it's a comfortable story to me, because in that story, I kind of get to be the hero, right? It's kind of my story. It's like, this is how I did it. Like, nice. If you could do it too, and then if you fail, that kind of means that I'm probably better at that than you. Like, it's weird, because it's not why I give advice, but it's a deeply human thing to want to be that person. So I'm not trying to intentionally sabotage anybody, but in a weird way, that advice is effectively sabotaging somebody. And by the time I give a talk about something, a lot of things is bad. Like, I remember when I was just starting, the first talk I ever gave as Vlambeer was titled "Games Should Be Games Again." And it was a scathing rant against the idea that games now had all this stuff that was like narrative and thematics, and it was all gross. I didn't like that. Like, games should be about the rules again, games should be about gameplay again, that was it. That was the first talk I ever gave. It was a bad talk, horrible talk. But I genuinely believe that. Like, I had to kick against something, right? Like, I was new. I was just starting out. Like, obviously, if I was happy with the games industry, I wouldn't be standing on the stage yelling about something. So I kicked against that. And I also used to say, the most important thing in the games industry is motivation. It's passion. Motivation. It's important. If you have 3 things, right? 3 things. You have motivation, you have money, and you have knowledge, right? If you would drop one, if you don't have money, but you have the knowledge and you have the motivation, you can make something, right? If you don't have the knowledge, but you have money and you have motivation, you can hire somebody. If you have all the knowledge and all the money in the world, but you don't have the motivation to do it, you're not going to make something, right? Made a lot of sense to me. It even sounds smart when you say it that way. But there's a weird thing. I remember being deeply, deeply demotivated through so much of our best projects. Ridiculous Fishing, I went through months of hell just being depressed about somebody else stealing our game. And I was demotivated. And here I am telling people, you know what, you need motivation. Because it makes sense, but it's not my own story. So nowadays I say, well, okay, motivation and discipline. Now, I can tell you many things about me, but one of the things I can tell you is I'm also not super disciplined. And somehow I'm still here. But I'm hoping with that advice to point somebody in a direction where they can run into errors themselves and then figure things out. That in the meanwhile, oh, there's water here, my God. Sorry. Good advice, drink water before you get on a stage. Nice. But that in the meanwhile, some people might, run into walls that were completely unnecessary. I couldn't help that. It's kind of a weird thing to say because I'm still getting on this stage, right? And I realized recently that part of that is just my position in the industry. Like, I'm a bad source for startup advice. Don't ask me. Like, I don't know. I'm looking back at the industry with 6 years of advice. You all have way more than me. Like, if you ask me how to get started today, I don't know. Why are you asking me? I started 6 years ago. So one day, and this is actually kind of a cheat because this is not bad advice I've given. It's bad advice somebody else gave. But I thought it was interesting. One day I went traveling. I travel a lot around the world and I talked to people in emergent territories, a place where the games industry doesn't really exist yet. And I came across this one very peculiar indie studio. And what they had was effectively a vertical hierarchy. Everybody was in charge of somebody else, which is weird. Like, you had like a CEO figure who was in charge of a CEO figure, who was in charge of an artist, who was in charge of a programmer, who was in charge of a sound designer. I was like, huh? How do you, I see a lot of indies doing flat hierarchies. I don't like that either. But a vertical hierarchy? This is a strange place because, communicating was kind of hard. They didn't speak great English. I definitely didn't speak their language. So we're trying to communicate, how did this happen? And they pulled up this talk that a friend of mine had given that was a sarcastic talk. And it was meant to be sarcastic. And it was meant to be so clearly sarcastic. It was so funny. I laughed through the entire talk. And then somewhere out there in the world, a bunch of people started a studio taking that exact advice step for step. They started on 4 projects at once. They had a vertical hierarchy. They didn't start emailing the press until they were close to release because stealth releases are good. And this was real advice. They took it as real advice. Now here's the thing. You can give a sarcastic talk, but it's not clear to you how much authority people give you. I don't know how much authority you give me. Like, some of you might think I'm really good at what I do. Some of you think I'm just the yelling guy at the end of this panel. You'd both be somewhat correct, maybe. I don't know. The problem is I don't know. And it gets worse. It gets worse because I don't get to pick. Now, one of the themes you keep hearing during these other talks was that a lot of times when you give advice, you would like to specify and clarify what people are actually asking. Well, let me tell you, on this stage, I don't get to do that. I don't get to do that for a number of reasons. A, you're too many. B, Charlie Hall right there is writing an article about it that's probably going to go up on a website somewhere that I don't have control over. And C, right there in the back of the camera, you see that camera right there? I don't get to pick who watches this video on the vault either. So here's another story. One day I was in South Africa. And in South Africa, there's this university called De Wits University. And De Wits has somebody that leads the gaming program named Hanli. And Hanli is a phenomenal woman. And she has ran that game program for many, many years and managed to get a lot of people that would otherwise not be part of our games industry to look at games, to learn games. And one day she asked me to give a talk at De Wits University. So I went over and I gave a talk. And one of the students was kind of, one of those kind of blunt students who ask questions that are probably inappropriate in an educational environment, like, should I drop out of school? Here's the thing, I'm a school dropout, right? So when I get that question, I try to be very relative about the answer. Like, okay, listen, everybody learns differently. Some people, have a lot of benefit when they go to school and they follow a program and there's set guidelines for how you do and how you engage. And some people, they are better off when they do it on their own and they don't learn as much in school because they feel claustrophobic or they don't fit the way the school teaches. So it's really up to you. Like I always say, if you have to ask me, then you probably shouldn't drop out. So the student was happy and sat down and nodded, and I looked back over to where Hanli had been watching for the entire talk, somewhere back in the corner there. And she'd been smiling and so happy with all the questions the students asked. Suddenly she was gone. And I thought, well, maybe she's heard that, I sort of told them that school might not be all that necessary, and she's a teacher, so maybe I hurt her feelings. So when I went off stage, I went to look for her, but I didn't have to because she came basically storming at me and grabbed me by my jacket and said, like, if you ever do that again, you're never coming back. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. If I ever do what again? Like, you don't understand, right? You're from the Netherlands. You know what happens when you drop out of school? The state pays for your life. That's what they do. It's the Netherlands. You know what happens in South Africa when a kid leaves school without graduation? Kid that came here with a grant, they go into crime, they go into drugs, they die. They die. Hi, my name is Rami Espanol. I'm one half of Dutch independent city of Vlaanderen. Did my advice get people killed? I don't know. Did yours? I don't know. Is that dramatic? Yes, it is. Is it real? Apparently, yes. Had I ever considered that? No. Is that the reality of a global industry? Yes. We don't get to pick who follows our advice. We don't get to pick who follows what we say. We don't get to pick how people think of us, what authority they give us. And sometimes that leads to painful situations. So why am I on this stage? Why am I here talking to you? So there's two types of advice. Either you try to maximize the winners or you try to minimize the losers. Those sound very similar, but they're very different. If you try to maximize the winners, it doesn't really matter how many losers there are. If you try to minimize the losers, it doesn't really matter how many winners there are. They're two completely different ways of giving advice, and both are not right and both are not wrong. Both have their own problems. So for example, if you come across a student and they say, okay, should I be in the games industry? And you say, go for it. You know that this industry can be rough. You know that the industry can be harsh. But you're hoping that through a combination of luck and merit, they will join this industry and that they will hopefully get to improve this industry in the future. Or you could tell them, be careful. This industry is rough. And then you have a chance that those that are confident and that that aren't marginalized, that those will have a shot at the industry and that, they will get to improve the industry in the future. And then you can choose the middle ground, which means that you don't really get to pick which one happens. It's a little bit of both or maybe a little bit of neither. So all advice is bad. It's too personal, not personal enough. It's too broad, not broad enough. Too specific, not specific enough. I stand here because I'm experienced. You know what? Experience is bad. I have experience. Who am I to tell somebody who's just starting out what to do? If I had followed my own advice, I wouldn't be standing here. I did everything wrong. I tell you I did everything wrong. But it's why I'm standing here. It's why I'm on this desk. So advice is outdated, it's slow. Videos are saved and people can play them everywhere. So I used to end presentations with make games. Make games, exclamation mark. Make games, go do it. That's why we're here for, right? Let's go do that, and then if we do that, in the future somehow things will work out. And instead of making games, you know what I did? I made some games, and then I built PressKit, and I started flying around the world and gave some talks, and started doing marketing, and went to events, and did all that stuff. I say, make games. That's the exclamation point to my talk, and it's just a tiny part of what I do. It's a tiny part of what I believe made me successful. Now, here's what I learned about giving advice. Extreme advice is bad advice. Middle of the road advice, bad advice. Optimistic advice is bad advice. Pessimistic advice is bad advice. Any attempt you will give to offer just a perspective will be taken as authority. No attempt that you do to look fallible will work. No attempt at offering caveats will work. No attempt at contextualizing your achievements will work. All advice you give is final. And it is truth to the people that listen to it. This is a failure talk. This is not a success talk. We're talking about our failure. The fact that we failed probably means we shouldn't be an authority on what we're doing here. And still people are going to take this as authority. So all advice in this talk is probably bad advice. All advice in my talk, probably really bad advice. How you mix those two in your mind, I don't know. That's up to you. But if all advice is bad, I have one thing that I think is worse, and it's no perspective. A lack of perspective is far more dangerous than bad advice. A lack of seeing lots of people do something wrong is worse than having nothing at all. So we can't preempt every possible failure of advice we give, and all we can do really is try to do right, check as frequently as we can to what changed in us, what changed in the world, what changed in the people that listen to us, and know that everything I've ever said was wrong. And then, you get on a stage, start typing a blog, and your advice is probably bad. Thank you.
Yeah. Man, that's a good talk. I've listened to it probably like 5 times now, and it still gets me every time. It feels very real. Does Asprite have a thing to mirror a selection or tile it? View show symmetry. Does not seem so. I think it only shows it for the full image, which is not useful for me. I mean, on the very low thing, it looks kind of alright. Looks like something. I don't know if I like it, but it looks like a thing. Like something that could be, pixel art maybe. But I think I'm actually gonna change it. Also, let me... I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, man. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, or if this looks good at all. Anybody know how to draw? Because apparently I've forgotten. Let me know. If you know how. So I can tell you to do this. Thanks in advance. Right, so I have absolutely no clue whether any of these are going to tile well at all, which is very bothersome. So, let me actually Google real quick whether there's an easy way to do Tilesheet tiling. Sprite Tilesheet tiling preview. Apparently it's on the issue tracker on Asprite, but not... Let's see what it says. Between automatic mode of having tasks. I'm not sure what that means. Well, maybe someday it'll exist. That would be very nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check all this and painstakingly manually fix all the tiling border issues up once I can actually view the tiles in game. Not looking forward to that. Can we get a different truck? Okay. Okay. All the other variants over here are much less frequently used, so I'm not too worried about those. I do want to create a duplicate and create slightly altered versions of these so that they can be placed a bit varied to avoid repetition. So did it place up? Oh, okay, there it is. And another viewer bites the dust. And another viewer bites the dust. And another one, and another one, and another one. I guess I'm just not being interesting enough when I do this, which I understand completely. Because I'm not really talking or making the funny noises or, you know, doing anything else that would be entertaining. I just really don't know what to say. Because I'm just drawing and there's nothing really to talk about aside from, you know, fucking sucks. But hearing that is probably more of a turn off than anything else, so yeah, it's not really like I have a thought process or anything going into this. It's just play some pixels and seeing if it's any good or not, and it's mostly not. Oh, what? Oh no. Oh no. I placed things on the wrong layer again. God damn it. Why does this always happen? Honestly though, I don't know how new streamers or whatever the fuck even still surface these days. How do you get out of there with just so many people out there doing the same thing, and so many of them with an already huge and established fan base that will just, you know, keep increasing their popularity, because that's how things work in these networks. If you're popular, they're gonna feature you, which makes you more popular. So there's frequently no real way of getting out there as a starter, both YouTube and Twitch and all of those kinds of platforms, social media networks, I guess. Okay. Yeah, it's already stream overtime. Not a lot done, huh? Okay. So if I'm gonna get some work done tomorrow, which I'm not sure, I'll try to draw a test scene with this tile set and post some pics online if it gets to that. If it does not, then we'll do that on stream. And I might work some more on tile sets on stream. Add some more variants, some background elements, all of that kind of stuff, you know. We'll have to see. Yeah.
You did good today.
Thanks, man. I have this problem where I just immediately, my immediate instantaneous reflex reaction is to say like some bullshit like thanks but I don't really agree, or thanks but it doesn't really mean anything, or whatever. You know, something to just turn on a compliment, turn it into nothing. I don't know why. It's kind of offensive to whoever says it, you know, because I'm implying that they're not being genuine, that they're being disingenuous, which is rude. And I don't know. I mean, yeah. In any case, yeah. Tomorrow, more of this. Also need to do a parallax background and all that. Okay, saved it is. Good. Alright, that's it for the stream. Thanks for sticking around to those who did. It's a bit sad that there was almost no activity in chat. I would always appreciate it when there's more talking going on, because coming up with things to talk about on my own is really difficult for me. And so having other people sort of just throwing things around.
Thanks for stream. Sorry, I had nothing to say.
Talking about whatever would be nice. It doesn't have to be related to what I'm doing, just anything, really. Yeah. That will be great. Alright, anyway. Bye-bye.